What happens after the Olympics? Not to the athletes, but to the facilities that were built for what's usually a once-in-a-lifetime event. In Lake Placid, after the 1980 Olympics, they were used by training athletes and for other competitions, but they also started to age and deteriorate. So here's the conundrum. Do you let those facilities go, or do you reinvest? There are arguments for both, but New York State decided to pump hundreds of millions of dollars into the Lake Placid facilities. Was it worth it? Could the money have been used elsewhere? And will it pay off? That's our story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day is provided by Renew Architecture and Design, designing camps, custom homes, and more throughout NCPR's listening region. Details at renewarchitecture.com.
Hi, I'm Amy Feiereisel. It's Tuesday, July 18th. First up, you may have noticed the smoky air is back and you're not imagining it. State environmental officials issued air quality warnings for most of New York today. It's the third time this summer they've issued warnings. They say the cause is smoke from widespread Canadian wildfires. Those fires could burn until winter. WAER's Natasha Simjanovich has more.
24 million acres of woodland. That's how much has already burned up in Canada, says DEC Commissioner Basil Sagos. He was joined at a press conference on Monday by a few of the more than 24 New York State forest rangers who were back from the Quebec province. They'd been up north since mid-June. That's not where you typically find them in the summer, says Sagos.
Usually by the time July and August roll around, we are in western states. Think about the big fires in the Pacific Northwest, California, Alaska. So it's a unique occurrence really to have now our third crew returning to New York from Canada.
Sagos notes New York State has avoided a potentially dangerous dry spell thanks to all the recent rain. However, he says officials are bracing for more fires like these in our region.
What we're experiencing now with our air quality, with the fires in Canada, is a result of a changing climate. We as state, provincial governments, national governments are fighting to catch up with the new normal. And the new normal seems to change week to week, month to month, year to year.
What won't change too quickly, says Sagos, are the current wildfires. Rain is forecast this week in Quebec and other parts of Canada, but the blazes across such rugged terrain are extensive. Sagos and the forest rangers believe only Mother Nature will put them out later this year. Until then, we should expect more air quality alerts in central New York. In Syracuse, I'm Natasha Simjanovich for North Country Public Radio.
The Roman Catholic Diocese of Ogdensburg has filed for bankruptcy in response to Child Victims Act lawsuits. The Child Victims Act is a New York state law that extended the statute of limitations for child sexual abuse claims. It allowed survivors to file civil suits, no matter when the alleged abuse took place. There are currently 124 cases pending against the Diocese of Ogdensburg. Bishop Terry LaValle says filing for bankruptcy allows all claims to be treated fairly. Law firms representing survivors disagree. They say the diocese is running from accountability and obstructing survivors' ability to be heard. The Diocese of Ogdensburg is the sixth in New York State to file for bankruptcy over the last 4 years. Paul Smith's College's proposed merger with a New York City-based nonprofit will not move forward. The state education department did not accept the FedCap Group's proposed governance structure with the college. As a result, Paul Smith's withdrew requests to be acquired by the FedCap Group. The Adirondack Daily Enterprise reports that the merger was being pitched as a saving grace for Paul Smith's College, which has struggled with declining enrollment and debt payments. Interim President Dan Kelting said in an email that a campus-wide strategic planning process will begin this fall. He said that'll involve taking a look at faculty size and making key hires in finance, development, student life, and enrollment management. About 6 years ago, the 1980 Winter Olympics facilities in Lake Placid were at a crossroads. That's according to Joe Martins, the board chairman of ORDA, the Olympic Regional Development Authority.
It was either, continue with the status quo of deferred maintenance and continued deterioration and end up with facilities like Olympic facilities in other parts of the world that are in complete disrepair, or invest in the facilities and bring them back to a state where we could attract national, international competition.
New York State chose the latter, pumping $600 million into new state-of-the-art infrastructure. ORDA also expects more than $100 million per year from Albany over the next 5 years. An investigative article by NPR's Brian Mann in Adirondack Life magazine asked tough questions about that taxpayer investment. You can hear our interview with Brian at ncpr.org. Joe Martins from ORDA, who is a former commissioner of the State Department of Environmental Conservation, told David Summerstein that decision to invest in Lake Placid was and is a very good one.
We've repainted the picture here in Lake Placid and in the Catskills, and we have a new slate to work with. And I think the opportunities going forward are exceptional.
The Adirondack Life article, talked about this risky bet and used the word risk. And It really identified sort of 3 places of risk. I mean, this is a lot of money. This is a lot that, the North Country is getting that could be going to something else in theory. The first one is climate change, that it's a big risk to invest in winter sports at a time when, we're seeing the smoke in the summers, and we're seeing big changes that endanger our ability to provide winter for these winter sports, 40 years from now.
What we have, by the way of facts, is a recent study by the University of Waterloo in Canada that looked at what venues, Olympic venues from around the world, could be reliably used by mid-century if climate change continues at the pace it's been going for the last couple of decades. And it concluded that there was 4 places in the world that would be reliable for use for Olympic winter sports. And they were Lake Placid, 2 sites in Norway, and 1 in Japan. And I thought that was a great data point because that suggests that at least through 2050, we could host a Winter Olympic here. And whether it's the Olympics or not, that means we can host all of the types of competitions that we are now hosting with regularity through 2050. And that, again, suggests to me that the investment that made by the state, it was a 30-year investment, not a 1-year investment or a 5-year investment.
If the Adirondacks sustain 2 or 3 years in a row of almost non-existent winter, where people don't show up at Whiteface, you can't hold many events, how prepared is ORDA to handle and to, sort of financially deal with that sort of no-show, if the snow just doesn't come and it's a lot of slush and mush?
Yep. I'd say, one, given current trends, we don't expect that to happen year to year. In fact, climate models suggest that while we will have less predictable weather, we will have more precipitation here in the North Country. ORDA has also taken steps to basically winterize all of our facilities. We have our refrigeration systems are good to create ice at very warm temperatures. Our snowmaking capacity at higher temperatures is enhanced tremendously. So we've been kind of road tested in that regard. We have held events here that other places could not host. Last year, there was a biathlon or a cross-country event, collegiate cross-country event that had to be moved from Vermont to here because our snowmaking capacity at Mount Van Hovenberg was so good, we had plenty of snow to host the event. Having said that, we also have to rely more on our year-round venues or our year-round activities at our venues to generate revenue, which we've been investing in as well. We have zip lines, we have the roller ride at Mount Van Hovenberg. We have mountain biking at all 3 of our ski centers. So, and we continue to do that. We know we need to diversify and make our facilities usable year-round. And I think we've made great strides in that regard.
Joe Martins is the board chairman for the Olympic Regional Development Authority based in Lake Placid. He spoke with David Summerstein. You can read the Adirondack Life article about ORDA by following the link from our website, ncpr.org. That's also where you can find more regional news all the time. Music today by Rockberry in Watertown and Pencil Dive of Saratoga Springs. I'm Amy Feiereisel, North Country Public Radio.